Welcome everybody. I am Liesbeth Pankaja and I'm joined today by my good friend, Dr. Murali Kadiramangalam, an expert on Patanjali Rishi and South Indian Indology. And today we're going to talk about Tillai, about the great place, Chidambaram, where we worship. Screen share. Where am I? Where we worship Lord Nataraja under the golden roof in this great temple called today Chidambaram, space of consciousness. And we see here this huge complex. It's one of the largest and grandest temples of all India. And this golden roof is the Sanctum Sanctorum, where Lord Shiva performs his cosmic dance, his Ananda Tandava. And we have the Deva Sabha and the 1,000 Pillars Hall and the North Gopuram and the 100 Pillars Hall and the Shiva Gama Sundari Shrine, Lord's Consort, and the Shiva Ganga tank here in the middle. So this complex was already, this sacred place was originally called Tillai. And Tillai actually means a mangrove tree. So, and these are the Dikshitars performing Vedic sacrifices. And these are the chariots. This is some of the tradition. This is a very ancient living tradition. And here we have the Shiva Ganga tank, a little bit more close up, with the 1,000 Pillars Hall in the back and the North Gopuram. And this is the Nitya Sabha, one of the 5 sabhas of the complex. Okay, now this is the subject today, or one important aspect of the subject, because originally Chidambaram was called Tillai, Tillaivana, the forest of Tillai trees. Now the Tillai tree is a mangrove, and today you won't find any of these trees. Yeah, you find a few, they're keeping a few but they don't grow naturally in the place where Chidambaram is situated. And for that reason, I will show you, I want to take you to Abracadabra. So we go to Google Maps. Because actually a mangrove is basically, of course, naturally situated on the coast. These are trees that need to stand with their roots in salty water, in seawater. And as you can see, as I zoom out, Chidambaram is no longer on the coast. The coast has moved some 13 kilometers eastward. And there still is mangrove forest here. This is Pechavaram, which is a natural reserve. And after the great tsunami in early 2000, they have been replanting mangrove forest in this whole area. But in actual reality, what was the Tillaivana an X amount of years ago is today too far from the coast for mangroves to grow there. So the question that was raised in my mind, if Tillai, the ancient Chidambaram, Tillai, was once situated closer to the coast in such a way that mangroves were growing there, could we maybe learn from geography and geology and oceanography how long ago, and could we from that maybe get a bit better understanding into the age of this great temple and its tradition? So there is an interesting, I'm not a geologist or a geographer or an oceanographer, so this is a question I'm in a way asking to the scientific community out there. I'm a historian and a dancer, and there is an other aspect to this. This is the entrance, the east door of the Sri Shiva Nataraja temple proper. And what we see here, that when you enter, you first enter through the gate and then the Gopuram, and then you cross the great temple square. But when you enter the Sri Shiva Nataraja temple proper, you have to descend. You have to descend 21 steps. The number 21 is interrelated to the doctrine. But as you can see, I'm standing at the floor level of the Nataraja temple. And the street level is slightly above my eye level. So that is like at least 2 meters higher. Now this indicates that there has passed quite an extensive amount of time between the origin of the temple, when it was founded, when Shiva first Patanjali Rishi and Vyagrapada Rishi came and worshipped the Mula Sthana, the original lingam. And then in Thaipusam on a Thursday, the full moon in the month of Thai, on a Thursday, Shiva came and danced, performed this cosmic dance and never left. Actually, so this is again the same steps, the 21 steps and the floor level of the temple. But actually, when you proceed and you go to the central courtyard, which is surrounding the golden roof, you descend a bit more, maybe another meter or so. So, and then there's another aspect, there's another tradition, one part of the Sthala Purana, one of the festivals, one of the great festivals of Chidambaram. I mean, there are now 2 great festivals, one in December, Arudra Darshanam, and Ani Tirumanjanam in June, July. But there was a 3rd festival, which is not celebrated so grand anymore, because the resources for it are missing. But the god would go to Tillai, which is here, which is much closer to the coast. And the Sthala Purana of the Chidambaram temple tells how Varuna, at some point in a conflict with the Asuras, accidentally killed a Brahmin. And because of the Brahmahati, the whole universe was so disturbed that the oceans withdrew and went dry. And then he worshipped Chidambaram in Chidambaram, and then he was cleansed from this sin, and everybody went to Tillai, where and the sea returned, and everybody bathed on Masi Maga, on full moon in Maga Masa, and the sea returned. So once upon a time, this little village was on the coast, or in either fall anyway, the coast would have been much closer. There are still actually a lot of deities came also from Sri Mushnam. There are still about, I don't know, a handful of pavilions visible. But you can see, if you see here 200 meters, so we can have a rough guess, maybe 1.5 kilometers. The beach is now away from the village. And once upon a time, people would come here on Masi Maga, and the gods would take bath in the sea, as is still done, for instance, in Pondicherry and in other places. But today there is no sea here. So this is the pavilion in Tillai, where the god would be taken, where the Nataraja, I don't know which form, whether the Nataraja would be taken. I think so. Maybe originally the Nataraja would be taken here, but at least still some form of the god goes here for Masi Maga. Maybe his slippers, or maybe Somaskanda. I don't know. there is still some ritual performed for this festival. And there are still a handful of pavilions. There's also, this is the pavilion of the god from Sri Mushnam, the Vishnu, who came, you know, Sri Mushnam is much further from the coast, but I think, I don't know if that deity is still coming. I saw a handful more pavilions that were completely encroached. So this is the situation in Tillai. And yeah, that is what I wanted to share. So I think, Murali, you had some ideas you wanted to share with me in connection with this observation, or some questions.
I think that you have highlighted two important points.
Mm-hmm.
One is that the level of the Chitsabha
Mm-hmm.
is maybe 2.5 meters or more, maybe 3.5 meters.
Yeah, something
below the
like that.
level.
Yeah, I never actually
also
measured it. Of course, I was a lot there, but I never actually measured it. So,
but it looks like, you know, quite a bit of a dip.
yeah.
The other day you had also mentioned to me.
Oh yeah, I forgot also the Shivagama Sundari temple is much
Yes.
lower, and of
Can
course
you
the
show
Shiva, but I don't have photos of that steps, so I can't visual, I can't, you know, I looked if I had any photographs accidentally of the 16 steps that descend from the street level, from the pavement into the Shivagama Sundari temple, but I don't have photos of that. So
I remember climbing up and down, and
yeah,
it's
I mean
vivid in
the
my
steps,
memory.
there are 16 steps there, and that is connected to her mantra, the 16 syllables of her mantra.
Right.
So.
The Shadakshari. Now, in addition to that, you also mentioned the Shiva Ganga tank.
Yeah, the
Is
Shiva Ganga
also
tank is
quite
even deeper. Eh? I think it's even deeper than the Chitsaba
Can you
level.
show a photograph? Can you show
Oh
a
yeah, I
photograph of
think
the?
I should have.
You have a couple of photographs.
Yeah, I have lots of photographs. Let me see. Oh, okay. Because I edited the.
If you don't have it readily accessible,
Yeah,
that's okay.
no. Yeah, I
But
mean.
what you are essentially saying is that the street level is way below.
So this is the street level.
The level of this.
When you move from the street through the gopurams into the temple, there is no level difference. You stay on the same level. And this is you. So I'm taking the photograph here from the street level, and then this is the depth of the Shiva Ganga tank.
Yeah, but tanks in all temples are always dug.
Yeah, because you have to get to the sweet water level. You have to go to the groundwater level. And I think in Chidambaram, that would be an extra challenge because the sea is so nearby. And if this area was once upon a time a mangrove forest, but the pond was already there. Eh? I mean, the Stala Purana speaks of that the pond was there when Vyagrapada arrived there, because he found a pond with the lingam, with the Mulastana lingam, and he started to worship. And so, I mean, but that might have been an important place or a sacred place because of the sweet water. And I know this tank has its own source. And I also know I heard a bit about, they did a renovation some 10 years ago of the Shiva Ganga, and they drained it. They completely drained it. And then they found they found that are also, I was told that they found connections, tubes or connections to other tanks and other waterworks. You know, we talked about the other waterworks, and that were created in connection with the Chidambaram temple in the previous video.
Right. Agreed. Yes, you had mentioned the waterworks.
Yeah.
Now, I think there are two parts of your hypothesis, that the street level is below the Shivakama Sundari sorry, street level is above the Shivakama Sundari and the Titsabha.
Yeah.
And by that, what you're saying is that it has taken a long time for the temple. There is a temple level probably at one point was at the street level. And it has basically, the street level has risen so much over the years that you actually have to walk down.
Well, that is, you know, I know for archaeologists, usually when you find a temple that is lower than street level, this is seen as that the temple must be of great age, because street level, I mean, people have they build their houses and they build other houses on top of that, and they leave garbage. And so street level tends to grow, especially in river deltas, because there will be maybe sometimes floods and silt will be deposited. And I think it is a possibility that the difference in street level between the lowest part of the Chidambaram temple, that is the area around the Sabha, and the present day street level could be an indication of the age, one way or another.
Good. I think that is something that, you know, a young researcher can take up for his or
it's
her
not my work. It's not my work. I mean,
thesis.
this is an observation that I want to share with you and with other people who are interested in the Chidambaram temple tradition.
So, the other thing that you pointed out was that there are the mangrove forest and the ocean or the sea has moved out quite far away from Tillai. See, in the Tillai pavilion, you actually see a big overgrowth of bush and trees and all that.
Yeah,
what
it is now a village that is in the middle of land. There is no sea there. So the sea is far away.
What it indicates is that the sea probably has kept, due to the ocean currents, there have been accretionary processes where the silt has gotten deposited and stretched the coastline out towards the east.
That's the point.
And what you are trying to say is another piece of research which could be done by a young researcher is that they could study how much time it has taken for the coast to move from Tillai to outward
to where it is today.
And that would give an indication of the age of the temple. And I think that's another good hypothesis that you have put out.
Thank you.
I think some young researcher can take it up and do probably this will be more like a PhD thesis in coastal engineering
absolutely.
or oceanography or something like that.
I mean, it's an excellent a study of the whole area and the development of the agriculture. And I mean, from the land patterns from Google Earth, you can see there's a different use of the land of the area between the Viranam tank and Chidambaram, and between Chidambaram and the coast. So I mean, these might be things that younger researchers might find interesting to look into.
Yes. As I mentioned to you, there are some studies of the accretion and erosion around Kadalur and Chidambaram. There are some studies which have been done, and I think they have used remote sensing and maybe
fantastic.
Maybe some measurements and maybe possibly some sediment modeling. I'm not sure about the third aspect, but I think that this is another topic which I think is very relevant.
Yes, absolutely.
If you see in a place like Puhar or Kaveri Pumpatnam, which is further south, you actually see the sea actually encroaching into the land. It has eroded the land up to a point where it has actually reached the entrance of a temple, which is very close to the coastline. I mean, it actually has come
you
right
mean
in.
The temple in the Danish, what is the Danish name? The Danish, where the Danish had a great post.
You're talking about Devi Pattanam, or you're talking about Devi Pattanam.
No, what I talked about was
Trankebar.
I think Trankebar is where the Danish had a that temple is now in the middle of the sea almost. It's almost eroded, the temple. I saw photos that it's in a really bad state.
So all that silt which is coming out in the southern, slightly south of Kadalur, has to go somewhere. it has to reach some other place, and the ocean will pick it up. The currents will have to deposit it someplace.
I mean, mythology, I mean, like from the point of view of history and theology, there are so many Stala Puranas or Puranas that speak about the seas withdrawing and coming back. You know, the Pumpuhar story, I think, is about Indra, and that something happened. I forget. I have to look it all up. But anyway, there are a lot of stories about the sea withdrawing and coming back for religious reasons or spiritual reasons, and so there must have been a lot of changes in the past with the coastline, I think.
There are well documented there's well documented in the historical records of the ocean actually encroaching well into the Chola capital of Pumar or Kaveri Pumpattinam. And that has been recorded by many historians, both in the Pali tradition. Buddhist monks have recorded it. It has also been recorded, I believe, in the other Tamil records. And then there was also a great tsunami somewhere in the 1100s, which has been researched quite extensively by oceanographers. They have actually done excavations, and I think they have documented the tsunami around 1100. So the coastline, there's been a lot of coastal activity all along the east coast in Tamil Nadu, especially near Kadalur, Chidambaram, Kaveri, Pumpattinam, and other places.
That's the problem with academic specializations. Me as a historian or you as an Indologist, we don't necessarily have access to the fact that this research has actually already been done. I mean, I know I saw in the newspaper, in the Hindu announcement, that there were oceanographic conferences about Chidambaram, but I could never find the literature. So
they have done his oceanographic studies of Puhar, Kaveri, Pumpattinam, very extensive. The oceanography has been done.
Yeah, Pumpuhar is not that far from Chidambaram, so.
Yeah, and they have also done some very nice, scientific studies around Mahabalipuram, where the old temple surfaced after the tsunami. Very nice studies, very scientific. But I think that what has to happen is, I think that a lot of science has to get injected into Indology. I think it has remained more about style. It has remained more about architecture about inscription. And I think the time to use science.
You need
multi-disciplinary
projects.
I think as you said, multidisciplinary projects. That's exactly right. I think isolated sitting.
I mean, that's one of the reasons. I mean, I talked to you about these. I mean, these observations I had 15 years ago, 20 years ago, during my association and my work together with Raja Dikshitar. And I always thought maybe I could figure it out and find the literature. And now my life is a bit different and my priorities are a bit different. So I just want to get these ideas out. And I hope somebody will realize it's a valuable subject to look into. And for me, this is okay. I mean, I had this idea. I have lots of ideas, We'll talk more like this. And
I think today you have made a very, very important point where you have essentially said that a multidisciplinary approach, a scientific approach,
of course,
to Indology has to begin. It is there. I mean, in a sense, when you look at the discipline of archaeology, they do use some amount of scientific processes. For example, archaeometallurgy. We are all familiar with the work of Sharada Srinivasan, especially on the Nataraja bronzes.
Brilliant
and other
work.
things.
Yes.
So there are things of that nature which have come, but I think that has to be expanded in a very large way in terms of using scientific methods. I mean, there is so much science that is available that has to be brought to bear onto archaeology. I think that's a very good conclusion and very good thought.
Let's conclude with that point. our discussion today, our public discussion. Thank you very much, Murali. It's always a pleasure. So thank you everybody for watching till the end. I hope it's been worth it. I think it's been worth it. I enjoyed it very much anyway. I'll sign off the recording now and hope to see you back soon. Vanakkam.